Your blood relatives are only rarely your spiritual brothers. Let us listen to Helena Röhrich. The teaching indicates blood relationship and spiritual relationship. In daily life, is it not those closest to us who most often misunderstand and belittle us? Because of their physical and blood ties, they impose upon us some of their own laws. People refuse to understand that above all earthly relationships there is a spiritual bond, and it is a blessing when both these relationships, spiritual and blood, are combined on earth. But this rarely occurs. Often in the same family, spirits with entirely different past accumulations are gathered. In your family, you may even meet former enemies with whom you have to continue to deal and, if possible, become reconciled. Enemies even try to incarnate into the families of their victims in order to more easily reach them. And a man's foes shall be they of his own household. Others, because of their spiritual development, are much closer to you than your blood relatives. Your true relatives, your soul mates, are the members of the supra-temporal spiritual community, together with whom you walk the path under a teacher and serve. These eternal ties are much more important than the family relations, which are limited to one single earthly life. Very often strangers by blood are more harmonious with us than our own children. Spiritual affinity is much stronger than the bonds of blood. An Agni Yogi must renounce the conventional in all national cultures, although temporarily he belongs to one of them. He chooses spiritual relationship over blood relationship. The immortal takes an attitude opposite to that of the old man. His highest loyalty is to hierarchy, the brotherhood of Shambhala, his master, and his spiritual brothers and sisters. As opposed to that, he will find in marriage and family, in the most cases, only temporary, not eternal companions. My first duty is to my master, and duty, let me tell you, is for us stronger than friendship or even love. As without this abiding principle, which is the indestructible cement that has held together for so many millenniums the scattered custodians of nature's grand secrets, our brotherhood, nay, our doctrine itself, would have crumbled long ago into unrecognizable atoms. This qualifies the exaggerated importance that is given to the family these days. Every one of us has direct duties toward his family, but let us not exaggerate them. Often, families manifest a complete disunion and mutual antagonism, and are the hearths of spiritual corruption. Would it be right and sensible to waste strength and sacrifice the high ideals for an artificial maintaining of bonds, which in most cases are illicit, being against the higher law? In order to overcome the illusion of the perishable world, you also have to break away from the bonds of blood relations and turn to the mates of your soul. However, this does not alter the fact that your obligations towards your family are sacred. The present-day bourgeois family is a true reflection of the prevailing materialistic worldview, a heaven of egotism, personal comfort, private happiness, effeminacy, and separation from the rest of humanity and from evolution, without regard for the gigantic tasks and needs of the time. The main cause of unhappiness in families is that the life of the spirit is not a part of their daily existence. There does exist a certain manner of living that becomes like a beast's lair. The whole atmosphere of coziness, personal well-being, relaxation, individual enjoyment and distraction. The huge amount of unnecessary objects that are being accumulated and have to be cultivated, cleansed and maintained. All this is simply incompatible with the requirements of the life of a spiritual warrior in spiritual discipline, selflessness, simplicity, service, and contemplation. When the spirit tries to create an illusory world of selfhood, it is certainly difficult to advance. The crisis of bourgeois marriage indicates that the foundations of this institution are crumbling. Its meaning is nowadays only seen in the marriage partners making each other happy. But this is not a long-time goal of life. It does not go much beyond the satisfaction of the egotism of both sides. There are different kinds of egoism. In addition to personal egoism, we can see examples of family egoism and even racial egoism. Moreover, there is even egoism on a planetary scale. The quality of self-sacrifice is fundamental in woman, but she should learn not to limit her self-sacrifice to the narrow concept of home life, which is often nothing more than encouragement of the family's egotism. She should apply it on a world scale. The satisfaction of personal desires is not sufficient as a basis for a lasting community. It leaves us unfulfilled with a feeling of emptiness. Obviously, the traditional happiness of bourgeois marriage is an illusion. Cooperation based on personal feelings is not steadfast. Besides respect for the labor itself, reverence for hierarchy is indispensable. Under the whirl of personal feelings, people will bob about like cork mannequins and will jostle each other and be occupied with spasmodic actions. The marriages of today are failing because they have no spiritual foundation and because they are not compatible with the principle of selflessness. It is really distressing to see which immense material and idealistic efforts are wasted in the futile attempt to build an island of private happiness, prosperity, and safety amidst the storms of the world. Even the most obvious task of marriage, namely the raising of the new generation, cannot be fulfilled without a solid spiritual basis. The continuity of the human race is not a value in itself. The new generation should continue our work. But he who does not know for what purpose and with what a mission he came to earth will not be able to lead children into a meaningful life either. As it currently exists, the bourgeois family is a major obstacle and a severe temptation, because it makes it almost impossible for its members to walk the spiritual path. I deeply regret it, but I have no right to bind myself so securely to any person or persons by ties of personal sympathy and esteem that my movements shall be crippled, and I unable to lead the rest to something grander and nobler than their present faith. You should not allow transient personal ties to prevent you from progressing on your eternal path and from accomplishing your supratemporal mission. That whirling, showy, glittering world, full of insatiable ambition, where family and the state parcel out between them a man's nobler nature as two tigers a carcass, and leave him without hope or light.